I used to watch all the universe and cosmos documentaries in wonder and awe of God's magnificent creation. I used to memorize facts and fantasize about the billions of other galaxies and all the possibilities of life elsewhere. It is said that most of our programming is done from 0 to 6. At that time for me, the theory of relativity, the theory of gravity, and the theory of evolution was already well established, and all science books were built upon that assumption, a theory. Every classroom I entered had a map and a globe that helped me make sense of my place within this physical existence. I also had a toy rocket ship and a mini globe. I marveled at. The television that tells lies to your vision, controlled remotely, of course, was priming me with universal picture globe animations before, every movie, news channel globe logos, merchandise, toys, and the education system, obviously, which teaches the whole spinning around the huge sun model with the planets and the infinite galaxy held in place due to gravity and dark matter, dark energy, which is 94%. Science in school books and TV very much taught me what to think and not how to think. To reiterate, science taught me what to think before I was old enough to learn how to think. And that is therefore Scientism, a religion based on theory that cannot be challenged without ridicule, reinforced by intelligent physicists trying to unfold the mysteries of the galaxy with complex maths and expensive tools, and of course NASA, with the famous moon landing and CGI renders of planets for us to visualize. This is such deep predictive programming and indoctrination that it's, hard to break out of like black magic. And it feels less threatening to our belief system and identity to simply be in denial when faced with evidence to the contrary. A comfortable lie rather than an uncomfortable truth is often the path of least resistance. I'm not attached to this or any other Earth model. I only seek truth, as unpopular or demonized as it may be. As many other so-called conspiracies, there are numerous psyopses to debunk and ridicule any other Earth model narrative, or even entertaining the idea in an open debate or courtroom-like evidence-based judgment with a jury. Why? Just debate it with evidence and then squash it. Done. Truth wins the case. But no. What happens is known as government-controlled opposition misinformation. And it plays out like this. You Google flat Earth, and all your results will be either debunking, ridiculing, or information from Flat Earth Society or other fake organizations that claim to have flat Earth proof, but gives you a straw man version of the evidence. So people, dismiss it and never look back again. People think I'm wacky if I believe this, is an egoic response of resistance. Another reason people remain in disbelief is the emotional discomfort of having, the very foundations of your world belief system so rattled that it almost requires complete rewiring of the brain. It's like finding out your mum isn't your real mother. You're like, shit, I just haven't got the capacity to deal with this at the moment. It's too heavy and I've got to work and cook and plan my next holiday. You, like many, may think it's too simple to be true. Or, the smartest people or tools in the world have already figured this shit out. I don't need to, which is a classic appeal to authority fallacy. No one else is buying this for a reason, even the experts, which is, again, bandwagon fallacy. How could they pull off such a lie and no one clocked? These questions should come after the fact. The evidence should be tested and judged without the emotional or egoic resistance or the outsourcing of your thinking and God-given senses to what trusted experts say, who we blindly trust. Again, I'm not attached to any indoctrination from the past or judgment in the present when it comes to this truth. I couldn't care if the earth was shaped like a dick. I only seek evident truth, which enables me to unbiasedly dig deeper without emotional resistance or cognitive dissonance. Simply and strictly an objective, critical mind with a growth mindset to learn, even if it means challenging my own belief system. Attachment to indoctrinated beliefs have a stronger grip when one has built their ego, a sense of identity around it. And until you research this, you will, to some extent, remain a slave to the Matrix, in my opinion. It's the biggest hoax of our lifetime. We have been told, a cosmic fairy tale falsehood so big that it has blinded us from our own experience and common sense, from seeing the world and universe as they truly are. When you convince people not to believe what's right in front of their eyes, it's a form of brainwashing or hypnosis, tricked into not believing your own senses, so you turn to authority for answers, like air will kill you, COVID, or in this case, the world is a sphere spinning over 1,000 miles per hour, tilted, wobbling on a 66.6 degree angle, orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, whilst flying through the galaxy at over 1 million miles per hour. But we can't feel any motion, or measure the motion, nor see a curve. Once you see how the magic trick worked, it no longer deceives your senses, and you can enjoy relearning the beauty of God's creation with new, updated eyes, with childlike curiosity, outside the boundaries of Scientism's echo chamber, which has done all the thinking for you. You can say hello to your real mother nature for the first time. A flat plane in the center of this electromagnetic toroid field where everything we experience and can measure makes so much more sense. More on this later. And before you wonder, as we all do, no, not everybody is in on it. They have made the prisoners the wardens of the prison without even knowing it. We are like indoctrinated to learn, identify with, and then regurgitate the lie, and ridiculed for challenging it. Who does know? Well, of course, all astronauts across Earth and other more superior members of NASA, while the majority stay in deception. Millions of other people who have been taught this truth or independently researched the logistics, and thousands in positions of authority. This includes many pilots, politicians, and scientists. So, a quick context. After the mud flood reset and World War, the group of elite globalists fully took over the education system, medical system, hospitals, and media outlets, TV, papers, entertainment, Hollywood, and the disproven heliocentric model agenda, built on a pure unproven theory, was pushed harder than ever before, with puppet figures like Einstein making Big Bang Theory and theory of relativity the base foundation on which all other sciences and research are built on, from indoctrinating in school with planets, globes, and rocket ships to televised moon landings, of course. And, of course, this spinning globe fantasy has already been perpetuated by Pythagoras, Galileo, Kepler, Newton, and other Freemasons, and, of course, the Church of England have made it standard education where they could. Any encyclopedia made after 1950, I think, had the Gleason map removed in favour of the religion Scientism, despite what the actual measurable science and the most ancient depictions showed, from Mayans to Egyptians to the Incas to the Indians, the Vedas, Norse, Hebrew, and of course Genesis. In 1959, the Antarctica Treaty was signed by every major nation in the world, even those in conflict. All nations have only ever agreed on two things in the last, 100 years. No one can freely explore the Antarctic, and everybody should get jabbed. It's untested yet safe. A lifetime of indoctrination can't be rewired in an hour. But it's important to remain humble and continuously remind ourselves, whatever I know there's more to know, because I don't know what I don't know. And after all, is it not ignorant to reject something you know nothing about, yet refuse to research? We know from COVID, it's easier to fool someone than to convince them they have been fooled. And why does it matter? Anyway, when reality is a simulation, people may ask, often to bypass the cognitive dissonance. Of course, who I am trumps where I am in the quest of self-actualization. So this is partially a valid point. But firstly, it's important to question your beliefs, especially when it questions God's creation. When you convince people not to believe what is right in front of their eyes, trick them not into believing their own senses, they turn to authority for answers. It has been written about as being the stay of enslavement in black magic. We've been told a cosmic fairy tale falsehood so big that, it's blinded us from our own experience and common sense, from seeing the world and universe as they truly are. And by defending the globe, you are doing this by default. Remember, it's a belief, and your authority are NASA astrophysicists, not a knowing that you can go out, see and measure. We're all entitled to truth, and as Osho said, when you believe, you stop seeking. For many, breaking out of this spell shatters all other deceptions, from global warming and government propaganda lies to Darwinism to comet threats and Mars landings. Basically, the percentage of Earth truthers, or true Earthers as I like to call them, that were vaccinated is 0%. Because once this psyops is known, all others crumble. It's the ultimate red pill in this matrix. Pretty much all true Earthers, like me, only look into this weird, ridiculed by design conspiracy to try and debunk it and, move on. But there ends up being weird truths instead. And then you're like, shit, how did I miss that? And then hold the phone. If that's not a globe, what about the sun and the moon? What about eclipses and outer space and extraterrestrials and so on? Only to find that pretty much everything, by applying Occam's razor, the simplest explanation that logically and measurably works, avoiding unnecessary assumptions, is often the most logical and provable hypothesis. Okay, get your logical thinking cap on, because I assure you, like most, you may not even know where you are according to what you may believe and defend. And these might be things you haven't considered or just overlooked, trusting the experts without challenging the logic. But to begin with, just to bring you back to your natural senses, here is a hypothetical question that you can try to answer honestly. You just landed on Earth and woke up as an adult. No school, TV, education, science books, or knowledge about the world whatsoever. Would your senses tell you that you are spinning and moving, or would they tell you you are stationary? Try and embody it. Would your senses tell you that you are living on a curve? Okay, so with these new senses, you're chilling on the beach, looking at the ocean, and a dude comes up to you and is like, "Bro, did you know we live on a globe spinning over 1,000 miles per hour? Oh, and the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, man. But the moon is 400 times further, so they look exactly the same." Would you think this dude is a conspiracy theorist? Would you think this dude has lost his mind or is slightly delusional? Or would you say, okay, prove it, and objectively look at the evidence that he has to present? Or would you say, no bro, that's not what it says in my religion, I don't believe it? Or anything else? Take a moment and just try and think about what your response, what your gut instinct would be. So now some critical thinking. Crepuscular rays, which science says the rays are indeed parallel. This is a fanning out effect. It's all just an illusion, a trick of the light caused by your perspective. So as you can see at the bottom, these are actual photos that you have probably experienced and observed, where you see rays of sunlight spreading from a singular point. But above, the top two images of the page show how it should look if we break down the logic of size of sun and distance compared to the Earth's size. Okay, now more of a mathematical brain fuck of a question. So, The distance between the Earth and Sun is about 8.3 light minutes. The distance between Earth and Polaris is about 430 light years. So 1 light year is about 6 trillion miles. So just so we know what a trillion is, a million times 1,000 equals a billion, and then a billion times 1,000 equals a trillion. How long would it take to count to trillion? It takes 11.5 days to count to 1 million seconds. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 1 million. It takes 11.5 days. So about 3 years to count to 93 million. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 1 million. It takes 11.5 days. So about 3 years to count to 93 million, which is the distance of the sun in miles. 93 million miles. 93 million would take 3 years to count. So how long would it take to count to 1 trillion? Just take a guess. The answer, to count to 1 trillion seconds, it would take 31,710 years. Just imagine, 1 trillion seconds, over 30,000 years to count to. And Polaris is over 2,500 trillion miles. So that's 31,000 years times 2.5 thousand, which would be a number our brains can't even comprehend. 77.5 million years to count to 2,500 trillion. Polaris distance in miles would be 31,000 times 2,500. That's 77 million. Whew, my brain's already fried. Now, if you can hang in there, I want you to look at perspective and see how things descend. And a good example, as you can see in the top left, is how space of objects gets smaller in perspective. As you can see, every lamppost, the distance is less than half of the previous. So it's a fast descent. So objects in the distance are very compressed. Polaris now is only 47 times bigger than the sun, which I've illustrated in scale on the top right. You can see the sun, 47x Polaris. But Polaris is over 25 trillion times further, a number we can't even comprehend, further than the sun from Earth. And it's only 47 times bigger. Yet it's visible with the naked eye. Just think about that for a moment. Okay, some heliocentric science for you. Earth travels 584 million miles per year, orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles while spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, while the sun travels at 4,510 million miles per year through the galaxy. That's 450,000 miles per hour. While the galaxy, so all of that, is spinning around the black hole at 514,495 miles per year. Yet we see the same exact stars in the same position, year after year, decade after decade, centuries, with Polaris at the center in the same fixed space. You can see lots of time lapses done from different parts of the world demonstrating this. What are the odds? Just think about it. You can also see how Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus move above Earth.